If you're in the market for a premium looking and classy hatchback which offers you completely hassle-free driving experience, then there are few cars as good as the Honda Jazz CVT automatic. Now we already know that it really has a big and roomy cabin on the inside, but how good is it to drive with the 1.2 petrol engine? Let's find out on the show today. Well, here I am driving the new Honda Jazz CVT. Now this car, of course, remember, comes with a torque converter as well, which means that you can change those gears on your own, and you get these flappy pedals behind the steering wheel which help you shift those gears manually. You of course have to use the minus button over here on the left to go and shift a gear down, and use this plus one on the right to shift a gear up. But of course, if you are someone who doesn't really want to change gears too often, then this is one of the best gearboxes on any automatic car out there in Indian small car space, and that's largely because the gear shifts are completely effortless, and you don't really feel that jerkiness that you feel in some of the other cars which sell in the Indian market at this price point. And that really goes to show the amount of engineering as well as sheer levels of commitment that Honda have put into this gearbox. If you are someone who enjoys keen driving and really wants brisk acceleration, and you can also use the S mode on the gearbox over here, and what that mode essentially does is that it holds on to every gear a little longer, and it holds on to the revs a little longer, and makes this car feel a lot more sporty than it feels in the automatic mode. Well, the other good point about this engine, of course, is remember the fact that it's a very refined engine, and it really does feel like a very buttery and silky smooth unit. In fact, when this car is standing at a signal on a red light and is running at idle, it's hardly audible inside the cabin, and sometimes you might in fact crank up the engine by mistake. Well, if you of course use this car in complete CVT mode and don't really want to shift those gears manually and want brisk acceleration as well, then there's a lot of noise happening, and there's that little bit of a rubber band effect happening. The engine seems to rev a lot, but there's very little in terms of acceleration happening immediately. So what you have to do is wait for a second or two and move off the throttle slightly before the gearbox sums up the engine for all that power. Well, the good point of having a CVT gearbox is also the fact that the engine's fuel efficiency is improved over a regular torque converter, and this car gives an ARI claim figure of 19 kpl, which is of course slightly better than even the manual version of this car, which is at about 18.7 kpl. So Honda really seems to have got the best of both worlds when it comes to the Honda Jazz CVT. Well, even though the Jazz is a pretty big hatchback on the outside, it is a pretty good car in terms of driver keenness, and even though the steering is also pretty light for most of town travel, well, this is of course, remember, one of the longest cars in terms of wheelbase, and what that does is that it gives the Jazz a lot of stability when you take it out on the highway. Well, the Jazz is the only really well-engineered choice when it comes to a CVT premium hatchback out there in the market. Remember, there is the Nissan Micra CVT as well, which is out there on sale, but of course it isn't as big as this car, and doesn't really feel as well bolted together either. Well, in terms of braking, the Jazz CVT is pretty impressive, and the feel from the brake pedal is very good. There's none of that sponginess or lethargy which comes from some of the other rivals that are on sale in India. Well, the ride comfort in this car is very good when you are driving it on pothole city roads, and it does manage to soak in most of the bumps without any fuss at all. It's only the larger crevices which make their presence felt inside the cabin. Well, this of course is the same motor which does the duty on a lot of other Honda cars. It does the duty on the Honda Brio, the Honda Amaze, as well as the Honda Mobilio. Well, the good point about this engine is also the fact that it really does start responding from very low down in its rev band, which makes it a very good car for city commuting. You don't really have to wait for too long for those revs to come in, and it starts responding from a relatively low 1100-1200 RPM, which is a good thing. And that, along with this pretty responsive gearbox, this automatic gearbox, makes the Jazz Automatic a very good car for city transports. Few small cars combine good looks on the outside along with a premium cabin on the inside as effortlessly as the Honda Jazz does. That, along with the fact that it comes with a very fuel efficient petrol motor, a convenient automatic gearbox, and Honda's engineering brilliance, makes the Jazz CVT Automatic one of the best, if not the best, automatic hatchback in the country at the moment. So, if you don't really mind spending a little more cash for an excellent product, then there are few cars as good as this one.